Welcome to South Park, Colorado, a quiet little mountain town where nothing much ever happens, except for alien abductions, underpants gnomes, celebrity encounters, and the occasional apocalypse. For over 25 years, this animated series has chronicled the lives of four foul-mouthed fourth graders and their increasingly absurd adventures, becoming one of television's most enduring and influential comedies. From its humble beginnings as a crude construction paper animation created by two college students to becoming one of television's most enduring satirical commentaries, South Park has evolved while maintaining its core essence. For kids navigating a world that's simultaneously innocent and completely insane. Stan Marsh, the everyman who often serves as the voice of reason in an unreasonable world. Kyle Broflovsky, the moral compass whose Jewish heritage often puts him at odds with his predominantly Christian community. Eric Cartman, chaos incarnate wrapped in an orange parka and fueled by an endless appetite for power and snack foods. And Kenny McCormick, the mysteriously immortal poor kid whose muffled voice hides profound wisdom about life and death. These characters have grown up alongside their audience, while somehow remaining eternally 8 years old. Frozen in that perfect moment of childhood where innocence meets the harsh realities of the adult world. What makes South Park truly remarkable isn't just its longevity or its willingness to push boundaries, but how it has consistently served as a mirror reflecting our society's absurdities back at us. The show has never been content to simply shock for shock's sake, though it certainly has its moments of pure irreverence. Instead, creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone have crafted something far more sophisticated. A satirical universe where the most outrageous scenarios often reveal uncomfortable truths about human nature and modern society. This timeline will explore how South Park has reflected and predicted real-world events, from the Clinton presidency through the digital age, examining how Parker and Stone have used their animated playground to comment on everything from religious extremism to social media culture. We'll trace the evolution of recurring characters, the development of running gags that have become part of popular culture, and the show's unique ability to turn current events into comedy gold within days of their occurrence. Few shows in television history have been able to respond to breaking news with the speed and surgical precision that South Park has maintained throughout its run. The show's production schedule, initially just 6 days from conception to broadcast, allowed it to comment on events while they were still fresh in the public consciousness. This immediacy gave South Park a relevance that other animated shows, bound by months-long production schedules, simply couldn't match. Whether addressing the 2000 presidential election, the September 11th attacks, or the COVID-19 pandemic, South Park has consistently found ways to process collective trauma and confusion through the lens of childhood perspective. But the show's timeline isn't just about episodes aired in chronological order. It's about understanding how South Park became a cultural phenomenon that influenced comedy, animation, and social commentary. From the Spirit of Christmas short that started it all to the recent pandemic specials that found new ways to address global crisis, we'll explore how this little mountain town became a lens through which we examine our own world. The evolution of the show parallels the evolution of American culture over the past quarter century, documenting everything from the rise of the internet to the polarization of political discourse. What's particularly fascinating about South Park's timeline is how it has managed to remain both timeless and completely of its moment. Episodes from the late 1990s dealing with censorship, celebrity culture, and moral panic feel just as relevant today, while recent episodes addressing cryptocurrency, streaming wars, and cancel culture capture the anxieties of our current moment with laser precision. This balance between universal themes and specific cultural commentary has allowed the show to age remarkably well, with early episodes remaining funny and insightful decades after their initial broadcast. The characters themselves have become archetypes that extend far beyond their original context. Cartman's manipulation and narcissism, Kyle's idealism constantly challenged by reality, Stan's growing cynicism about the adult world, and Kenny's stoic acceptance of life's brutalities. These personality types resonate because they represent different aspects of the human experience. The boys' friendship, tested repeatedly but never truly broken, serves as the emotional anchor that allows the show to venture into increasingly dark territory while maintaining its fundamental optimism about human connection. As we journey through the complete South Park timeline, from the boys' first day of school to their latest adventures, we'll explore how four animated children became some of television's most enduring characters and sharpest social critics. We'll examine the show's unique approach to controversy, its relationship with censorship and network standards, and how it has consistently pushed the boundaries of what's acceptable on television while somehow maintaining its essential sweetness about childhood friendship. So settle in as we explore this remarkable timeline, understanding how a crude cartoon about four kids in a small Colorado town became one of the most important and influential comedies in television history, and how it continues to find new ways to surprise, challenge, and entertain audiences around the world. The South Park story begins not with a TV series, but with two college students at the University of Colorado who had a twisted sense of humor and access to construction paper. Trey Parker and Matt Stone's friendship began in film class, where their shared love of irreverent comedy and musical theater would eventually reshape animated television. Parker, already showing signs of the creative ambition that would define his career, was experimenting with stop-motion animation using cutout paper figures, while Stone brought a keen eye for comedy timing and an understanding of what made audiences laugh. The true genesis moment came during Christmas 1995 when Parker created The Spirit of Christmas, later known as Jesus vs. Frosty, as a video Christmas card for his friends and family. This crude construction paper animation featured four boys who looked remarkably similar to our future protagonists, though their names and personalities were still developing. The short's dark humor, culminating in Kenny's first death when an evil snowman throws a star-shaped object into his face, caught the attention of Fox executive Brian Graydon, who had received a copy from a mutual friend. Impressed by the short's irreverent take on Christmas traditions, Graydon commissioned Parker and Stone to create a second Christmas card, this time with a budget of $1,000. The Spirit of Christmas, Jesus vs. Santa, became one of the internet's first viral videos in 1995, passed around on VHS tapes and early file-sharing networks long before YouTube existed. The short's premise, Jesus and Santa Claus engaging in mortal combat, while four kids try to figure out the true meaning of Christmas, perfectly encapsulated what would become South Park's signature blend of childlike innocence and adult cynicism. The animation was deliberately crude, but the writing was sharp, and the voice acting, performed entirely by Parker and Stone, brought the characters to life in unexpected ways. Comedy Central executives saw the potential in this crude animation style and irreverent humor. The network, still finding its identity in the late 1990s as a cable destination for younger viewers, was looking for original programming that would distinguish it from other channels. South Park offered something genuinely different, a cartoon that looked like it was made by children but contained adult themes and language that would make HBO blush. The juxtaposition between the innocent appearance and the mature content created a cognitive dissonance that was both shocking and hilarious. The development process wasn't without its challenges. Parker and Stone had to learn television production on the fly, transitioning from their college film projects to a professional series with deadlines, network notes, and broadcast standards. They maintained the construction paper aesthetic, but upgraded to computer animation that could replicate the cutout look while allowing for faster production. This decision would prove crucial to the show's future success, as it enabled the rapid response to current events that would become South Park's trademark. The first season, premiering August 13th, 1997, with Cartman gets an anal probe, established the show's core elements immediately. The four main characters were fully formed from the beginning. Stan as the reasonable everyman who often serves as the audience surrogate, Kyle is his best friend and moral compass whose intelligence sometimes makes him a target, Cartman as the selfish antagonist whose schemes drive many of the plots, and Kenny as the mysterious poor kid who dies in almost every episode before returning the next week without explanation. The pilot episode's alien abduction plot combined with visitors who couldn't understand why the boys were more concerned with seeing Cartman's alleged alien-implanted device than with the profound implications of extraterrestrial contact, set the template for the show's approach to major events. What made early South Park revolutionary wasn't just its crude animation or profanity. It was how quickly it could respond to current events. The show's production timeline, initially just 6 days from conception to air, allowed Parker and Stone to comment on news events while they were still fresh in viewers' minds. This immediacy gave South Park a relevance that other animated shows, with their months-long production schedules, couldn't match. The speed also meant that episodes had an urgency and topicality that felt almost like animated editorial cartoons. The first season established many elements that would become South Park staples. Kenny's deaths and resurrections without explanation, creating a running gag that would define the character for years. Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh introducing the show's willingness to create characters from literally anything, no matter how scatological. And Big Gay L's Big Gay Boat Ride, demonstrating the show's complex approach to social issues. Neither purely liberal nor conservative, but something entirely its own that often frustrated viewers looking for simple political messaging. Chef, voiced by soul legend Isaac Hayes, became the boys' guide to adult world mysteries, offering advice that was simultaneously helpful and completely inappropriate. His presence established South Park's unique take on adult-child relationships, where adults were often more childish than the children themselves. Chef songs, which Hayes co-wrote with Parker and Stone, became highlights of early episodes, combining Hayes' smooth vocal style with increasingly absurd lyrics about topics no children's show would normally address. The season finale, Cartman's Mom is a Dirty Slut, ended with a cliffhanger that would define South Park's relationship with its audience. Who is Eric Cartman's father? This mystery, stretched across the summer hiatus and into the second season, showed that despite its crude appearance and juvenile humor, South Park was capable of genuine narrative sophistication. The cliffhanger also demonstrated the creator's understanding of television as a medium, using traditional storytelling techniques to keep audiences engaged between seasons. By the end of its first season, South Park had become a cultural phenomenon, spawning merchandise, catchphrases like, "Oh my God, they killed Kenny," and countless imitators. More importantly, it had established itself as a unique voice in television comedy, one that could make audiences laugh at the darkest aspects of human nature while somehow maintaining an underlying optimism about childhood friendship and basic human decency. The shift from college experiment to cultural touchstone happened remarkably quickly. Within months, South Park had gone from a viral video curiosity to must-see television, proving that there was an audience hungry for comedy that didn't follow traditional rules about what was acceptable on television. The second season of South Park, premiering in April 1998, had the challenging task of following up on the success of the first season while resolving the cliffhanger that had kept fans speculating for months. Terrence and Phillip in Not Without My Anus, the season premiere, initially appeared to be a complete departure from the Cartman paternity storyline, instead focusing on the Canadian duo who served as the boys' favorite television characters. This fake-out episode, which aired on April Fool's Day, was simultaneously brilliant and infuriating, demonstrating Parker and Stone's willingness to subvert audience expectations even when it meant temporarily disappointing fans eager for resolution. The actual resolution came in Cartman's Mom is Still a Dirty Slut, which revealed that Cartman's mother was actually his father, due to her being a hermaphrodite, while his biological father remained a mystery that wouldn't be fully resolved for several more seasons. This convoluted explanation perfectly captured South Park's approach to storytelling. Build up audience expectations, then provide an answer that's both satisfying and completely absurd. Season 2 expanded the show's world significantly, introducing recurring characters who would become essential to the South Park universe. Butterscotch, initially a background character named Puff Puff, began to emerge as a fifth member of the main group, his innocent optimism providing a perfect contrast to the other boys' increasing cynicism. Tweak Tweak, the over-caffeinated, anxiety-ridden student, offered another perspective on childhood stress and pressure. These additions showed that Parker and Stone were thinking beyond the core four characters, building a community that could support longer narratives. The second season also saw South Park beginning to tackle more serious social issues while maintaining its irreverent tone. Chicken Lover dealt with censorship and the responsibility that comes with power, as Officer Barbrady learns to read, but discovers that knowledge brings awareness of the world's problems. Conjoined Fetus Lady addressed prejudice and the fear of difference, using the school nurse's rare medical condition as a metaphor for how society treats anyone who doesn't fit conventional standards. Perhaps most significantly, the second season included Chef Aid, an episode that featured real musicians including Elton John, Ozzy Osbourne, and Meat Loaf, demonstrating that South Park had achieved enough cultural cachet to attract major celebrities willing to participate in its absurd universe. This episode also marked the beginning of South Park's expansion beyond television, as the fictional benefit concert became the basis for a real soundtrack album. The third season, beginning in April 1999, represented South Park hitting its creative stride. The animation had become more sophisticated while maintaining its distinctive cutout paper aesthetic, and the writing had developed a confidence that allowed for more experimental episodes. Rainforest Schmainforest satirized environmental activism and celebrity causes, while Spontaneous Combustion tackled religious fundamentalism and scientific skepticism with equal vigor. Chinpokeman, the season's Pokemon parody, demonstrated South Park's ability to comment on contemporary cultural phenomena while they were still at their peak popularity. The episode's portrayal of Japanese cultural influence and American consumer culture resonated with parents and children alike, showing how the show could work on multiple levels simultaneously. The fourth season, airing in 2000, saw South Park becoming increasingly ambitious in its scope and subject matter. Cartman's Silly Hate Crime 2000 addressed the complexity of hate crime legislation through the lens of a sledding race, while probably concluded a two-part storyline about religious revivals and crisis of faith that had begun in the previous season's finale. These multi-part episodes showed that South Park was becoming more comfortable with longer narrative arcs while maintaining its episodic structure. The season's crowning achievement was undoubtedly Timmy 2000, which introduced the character of Timmy, a disabled student whose limited vocabulary and enthusiastic personality challenged both the other characters and the audience to examine their assumptions about disability and difference. The episode's handling of attention deficit disorder and the overmedication of children proved prophetic, addressing issues that would become major social concerns in subsequent years. The period from 2000 to 2002, encompassing seasons 5 and 6 of South Park, represents what many fans consider the show's creative peak, a time when Parker and Stone had fully mastered their craft and felt confident enough to push the boundaries of what animated television could achieve. This era gave us some of the most memorable and quotable episodes in the series' history, including the legendary Scott Tenorman Must Die, widely regarded as one of the greatest South Park episodes ever created. Season 5 opened with It Hits the Fan, an episode that would prove prophetic about America's relationship with censorship and media controversy. When the fictional curse word shit is said and censored on a fictional TV show called Cop Drama, it triggers a cascade of societal breakdown that perfectly captured the absurdity of moral panic. The episode aired just months before real-world events would test America's tolerance for controversy in ways Parker and Stone couldn't have anticipated, making their satirical take on censorship feel almost prescient. But it was Scott Tenorman Must Die that truly established this period as South Park's golden age. The episode, in which Cartman seeks revenge against a teenage bully who tricks him into buying pubic hair, showcased the show's ability to craft intricate plots that built to devastating climaxes. Cartman's elaborate scheme to get Scott's parents killed and then feed them to Scott in Chile represents one of the darkest moments in the series' history. Yet it's presented with such methodical precision that it becomes almost operatic in its tragedy. The episode demonstrated that beneath Cartman's childish exterior lurked something genuinely sinister, elevating him from mere comic relief to one of television's most compelling antiheroes. This period also saw South Park tackling larger philosophical questions with increasing sophistication. Super Best Friends, which featured religious figures including Jesus, Buddha, Moses, and Muhammad working together as a superhero team, demonstrated the show's willingness to address religious themes with both irreverence and surprising respect. The episode's portrayal of faith and cooperation across different belief systems would later become controversial for different reasons. But at the time, it represented South Park's unique ability to find humor in sacred subjects without necessarily mocking the underlying beliefs. Tally, perhaps the most purely absurd episode of this era, introduced a character that was literally just a talking towel obsessed with getting high. The episode's stream of consciousness narrative and deliberately pointless plot represented South Park's confidence in its audience's willingness to follow the show anywhere, no matter how strange the destination. Tally's catchphrase, "Don't forget to bring a towel," became part of popular culture, proving that even the show's most ridiculous creations could resonate with viewers. The Underpants Gnomes episode, Gnomes, gave the world a perfect metaphor for questionable business plans and illogical thinking. The Gnomes' three-phase plan, Phase 1, collect underpants, Phase 2, Phase 3, profit, became shorthand for any half-baked scheme missing crucial details. The episode's B-plot, dealing with corporate coffee chains versus local businesses, showed South Park's increasing engagement with economic and social issues affecting small-town America. Season 6 continued this trend of ambitious storytelling with the return of the Fellowship of the Ring to the Two Towers, a Lord of the Rings parody that managed to simultaneously honor and satirize Tolkien's epic while telling a story about childhood innocence lost. The episode's revelation that the boys have accidentally rented a pornographic video instead of the fantasy epic they intended creates a quest narrative that's both hilarious and surprisingly moving, as each character grapples with their first exposure to adult sexuality in their own way. Red Hot Catholic Love tackled the Catholic Church sex abuse scandal with typical South Park directness, but also demonstrated the show's ability to find hope and redemption even in the darkest subject matter. The episode's suggestion that the church's problems stem from institutional corruption rather than religious faith itself showed a nuanced understanding of the difference between spirituality and organized religion that would inform many future episodes. This era also marked South Park's full embrace of musical storytelling. While the show had always incorporated songs, episodes like Christian Rock Hard showed how music could drive narrative and character development in ways that pure dialogue couldn't achieve. Cartman's scheme to exploit Christian rock music for commercial gain became a meditation on artistic integrity versus commercial success, themes that would resonate throughout the show's later seasons. The period's technical achievements shouldn't be overlooked either. The animation had evolved significantly from the crude cutouts of the early seasons, but Parker and Stone were careful to maintain the distinctive visual style that made South Park immediately recognizable. The improved animation allowed for more complex sight gags and visual storytelling while preserving the show's essential charm. Perhaps most importantly, this era established South Park's template for addressing current events with both speed and depth. Episodes could respond to breaking news within days, but they also managed to find universal themes within specific controversies. This balance between topicality and timelessness meant that episodes remained funny and relevant years after their initial broadcast, even as the specific events that inspired them faded from memory. The show's approach to controversy also matured during this period. Rather than simply shocking audiences for shock's sake, Parker and Stone learned to use controversial content as a vehicle for deeper commentary about human nature and society. This sophisticated approach to offensive material would become one of South Park's defining characteristics, allowing it to tackle subjects other shows wouldn't dare address while maintaining its essential humanity and humor. The cultural impact of this period cannot be overstated. South Park had evolved from a cult curiosity to a genuine cultural force, influencing not just other animated shows, but comedy in general. The show's willingness to mock everyone equally, regardless of political affiliation or social status, created a new model for satirical comedy that many would attempt to copy, but few would master. In 1999, between the show's second and third seasons, South Park achieved something unprecedented for an animated television series. It became a major motion picture. South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut, wasn't just an extended episode or a collection of shorts. It was a fully realized musical film that managed to expand the show's universe while staying true to its essential character. The movie's journey from concept to screen and its impact on both the series and popular culture represents one of the most successful transitions from television to film in animation history. The genesis of the South Park movie came from a simple desire by Parker and Stone to create something bigger than what television would allow. The constraints of broadcast standards, running time, and budget had always been part of South Park's charm. But the movie offered an opportunity to explore what the characters and their world could become without those limitations. The result was a film that felt like South Park while being something entirely new. A satirical musical that used the boys' innocent perspective to comment on censorship, war, and the relationship between America and Canada. The plot, which involves the boys sneaking into an R-rated movie starring their favorite Canadian comedians Terrence and Phillip, only to have their use of profanity spark an international incident, perfectly captured the show's ability to find global significance in small-town events. When the boys' parents declare war on Canada over the corrupting influence of Canadian entertainment, the story becomes a meditation on scapegoating, moral panic, and the way societies deflect responsibility for their problems onto convenient targets. What made the movie special wasn't just its expanded scope, but its commitment to the musical format. Parker, with his background in musical theater, crafted songs that advanced the plot while revealing character depth that the series had only hinted at. Blame Canada, performed by the outraged mothers of South Park, became a brilliant satire of parental responsibility and media influence, earning an Academy Award nomination and bringing South Park to audiences who might never have watched the television series. The movie's production was notably ambitious for an animated film based on a television series. Rather than simply using television-quality animation, Parker and Stone invested in theatrical quality production values while maintaining the distinctive cutout paper aesthetic that defined the show. This balance between improved quality and consistent style became a template that many other animated series would follow when making their own theatrical features. Satan's character arc in the movie demonstrated South Park's unique approach to redemption and character development. Rather than being a simple antagonist, Satan becomes a sympathetic figure struggling with an abusive relationship with Saddam Hussein. This subplot, which could have been merely crude humor about historical figures in hell, instead became a surprisingly touching story about self-worth and the courage to leave toxic relationships. The song Up There, in which Satan dreams of experiencing life on Earth, ranks among the most genuinely moving moments in South Park's entire catalog. The movie's impact on the television series was immediate and lasting. The expanded canvas had allowed Parker and Stone to explore deeper character development and more complex storytelling techniques, lessons they brought back to the series. Post-movie episodes showed increased confidence in tackling serious subjects and more sophisticated approaches to both humor and social commentary. Critically, the movie was embraced as both successful entertainment and legitimate social commentary. Roger Ebert, not typically a fan of crude humor, praised the film's intelligence and satirical sharpness. The movie's rating, which allowed for the uncensored profanity and violence that television couldn't accommodate, became part of its thematic content rather than simply an excuse for shock value. The financial success of the movie also changed South Park's status within the entertainment industry. No longer just a cult television show, South Park had proven it could attract mainstream audiences while maintaining its subversive edge. This success gave Parker and Stone increased creative freedom and financial security, allowing them to take greater risks with the television series. Perhaps most significantly, the movie established South Park as a legitimate voice in American political and social discourse. The film's themes of censorship, war, and international relations were taken seriously by critics and audiences alike, proving that animated comedy could address serious subjects without sacrificing either humor or insight. This reputation would serve the series well in subsequent years as it tackled increasingly complex and controversial topics. The movie's legacy extends beyond South Park itself. It demonstrated that animated television series could successfully transition to theatrical features without losing their essential character, inspiring similar projects from other shows. More importantly, it proved that audiences were hungry for satirical content that didn't talk down to them, paving the way for more sophisticated animated comedies in both television and film. The success of Bigger, Longer, and Uncut also marked South Park's full arrival as a cultural phenomenon. The movie's catchphrases, songs, and characters became part of popular culture in ways that even successful television episodes couldn't achieve. This broader cultural penetration would influence how Parker and Stone approached the series going forward. Knowing that their creations had the potential to reach far beyond their original audience and become part of the larger cultural conversation. The transition from 2003 to 2006, spanning seasons 7 through 10, marked a pivotal period in South Park's evolution as both the characters and the show itself began to mature in unexpected ways. This era saw the series grappling with more complex social issues while maintaining its irreverent humor. And perhaps most significantly, it witnessed the gradual development of the four main characters from simple archetypes into more nuanced personalities with genuine emotional depth. Season 7 opened with Cancelled, a meta-commentary on the show's own existence that revealed Earth to be an alien reality show. This self-aware approach to storytelling became increasingly common during this period, as Parker and Stone grew more comfortable commenting on their own creation and its place in popular culture. The episode's premise that Earth's entertainment value was declining served as both a joke about the show's longevity and a genuine meditation on creativity and relevance in an ever-changing media landscape. One of the most significant developments during this period was the evolution of Butterscotch from background character to central figure. Episodes like Butter's very own episode revealed depths of character that had been hinted at but never fully explored. Butter's innocent optimism in the face of increasingly dark circumstances became a powerful tool for examining how children process adult dysfunction and trauma. His parents' troubled marriage and his father's confusion about his own sexuality created storylines that were both funny and genuinely heartbreaking, showing South Park's growing sophistication in handling serious subject matter. The period also saw Kenny's temporary death and replacement by Tweak as the fourth member of the main group. This bold narrative decision demonstrated Parker and Stone's willingness to fundamentally alter the show's dynamic rather than simply maintaining the status quo. Kenny's absence allowed for deeper exploration of how the remaining three boys related to each other without their buffer, while Tweak's anxiety-driven personality brought new comedic and dramatic possibilities to the group dynamic. Good Times with Weapons, the anime-influenced episode where the boys acquire martial arts weapons, exemplified this era's approach to blending serious themes with absurd premises. The episode's gorgeous anime animation sequences contrasted sharply with the show's typical cutout style, creating a visual metaphor for how the boys saw themselves versus reality. The stories focus on the gap between fantasy and consequence, culminating in Butter's serious injury being overshadowed by concern about a dog appearing naked on stage, perfectly captured the skewed priorities of both childhood and adult society. This period also marked South Park's increasing engagement with contemporary politics and social issues. Douche and Turd, which portrayed a school election between a literal douche and a turd sandwich, became a prescient commentary on political disillusionment and the illusion of choice in democratic systems. The episode's message that sometimes choosing between bad options is still better than not participating at all would resonate throughout subsequent election cycles, showing South Park's growing influence on political discourse. The Goth Kids episodes during this era demonstrated the show's ability to sympathetically portray subcultures while still finding humor in their pretensions. Rather than simply mocking alternative lifestyles, these episodes explored the genuine alienation and search for identity that drive young people toward nonconformist groups. This more nuanced approach to social commentary became characteristic of the show's maturation during this period. The Passion of the Jew, which dealt with Mel Gibson's controversial film The Passion of the Christ, showed South Park tackling religious and cultural sensitivity with increasing sophistication. The episode's portrayal of both Christian fundamentalism and Jewish concerns about anti-Semitism demonstrated the show's growing ability to find humor in sensitive topics without necessarily taking sides in cultural conflicts. Perhaps most significantly, this era saw the development of more complex, ongoing storylines and character arcs. Stan's growing cynicism about the adult world became more pronounced, particularly in episodes dealing with his parents' troubled marriage. Kyle's moral struggles became more sophisticated as he encountered situations where his principles conflicted with practical realities. Even Cartman's schemes became more elaborate and psychologically complex, suggesting depths of manipulation that went beyond simple selfishness. The show's technical aspects also evolved during this period. The animation became more sophisticated while maintaining its distinctive style, and the writing showed increased confidence in tackling multiple storylines within single episodes. The production timeline remained remarkably fast, allowing the show to respond to current events with continued relevance. But the episodes themselves became more layered and rewarding for repeat viewing. This era also established South Park's template for addressing real-world tragedies and controversies. Rather than avoiding difficult subjects, the show developed an approach that acknowledged the seriousness of events while finding ways to process them through humor. This balance between respect and irreverence became one of South Park's most distinctive characteristics and one of its most valuable contributions to public discourse. The period from 2006 to 2010, encompassing seasons 11 through 14, represents a fascinating evolution in South Park's storytelling approach as the show began experimenting with serialized narratives and interconnected storylines. This era marked a significant departure from the purely episodic format that had defined the series' first decade, as Parker and Stone grew increasingly interested in exploring how events in one episode could influence and inform subsequent stories. The serialization experiment began tentatively with subtle callbacks and recurring themes, but gradually evolved into more ambitious multi-episode arcs that required viewers to pay attention to ongoing developments. This shift reflected both the creators' growing confidence in their audience's commitment to the show and their own desire to tackle more complex narratives that couldn't be resolved within a single episode's runtime. With apologies to Jesse Jackson, the season 11 premiere exemplified this new approach by dealing with the lasting consequences of Stan's father Randy saying a racial slur on television. Rather than treating the incident as a one-off joke, the episode explored how such moments reverberate through communities and relationships, with effects that extend far beyond the initial event. The episode's examination of white guilt, racial sensitivity, and the complexities of forgiveness showed South Park's increasing willingness to sit with uncomfortable subjects rather than simply making jokes about them. This period also saw the introduction of more sophisticated recurring antagonists and supporting characters whose stories developed across multiple episodes. The underpants gnomes returned with more complex motivations, while characters like PC Principal and Randy Marsh's various obsessions began to create ongoing narrative threads that connected seemingly unrelated episodes. The show's approach to current events also evolved during this period. Rather than simply responding to individual news stories, Parker and Stone began identifying broader cultural trends and exploring them through extended narrative arcs. The economic crisis, social media emergence, and changing political landscape all became subjects for multi-episode examination rather than single-episode commentary. The Imagination Land trilogy represented the pinnacle of this serialized approach, creating an epic three-part story that required significant investment from viewers while delivering payoffs that wouldn't have been possible in the show's earlier, more episodic format. The trilogy's exploration of imagination, terrorism, and the power of fictional narratives created a complex meditation on creativity and belief that demonstrated South Park's growing artistic ambitions. This era also saw increased experimentation with different animation styles and storytelling techniques. Episodes began incorporating flashbacks, dream sequences, and alternative perspectives more frequently, creating a richer and more varied viewing experience. The show's technical capabilities had evolved to the point where these experiments felt natural rather than forced, allowing for greater creative expression without sacrificing the essential South Park aesthetic. The serialization experiment wasn't universally successful, and some fans preferred the show's earlier episodic approach. However, this period's willingness to take creative risks and push boundaries ultimately strengthened the series by proving it could evolve and adapt while maintaining its core identity. The lessons learned during this experimental phase would inform the show's approach to storytelling for years to come, creating a more flexible and sophisticated narrative toolkit that enhanced rather than replaced the show's traditional strengths. The transition to high-definition animation in 2009 marked more than just a technical upgrade for South Park. It represented a fundamental shift in how the show could tell stories and engage with an increasingly digital world. This period, spanning from 2009 to 2013, saw the series adapt to new technologies while maintaining its essential character, proving that even the most distinctive visual styles could evolve without losing their identity. The move to HD wasn't simply about improving image quality. For a show built on the aesthetic of crude, cut-out paper animation, the challenge was maintaining that deliberately rough, handmade look while taking advantage of improved technical capabilities. Parker and Stone worked closely with their animation team to ensure that the upgraded visuals enhanced rather than replaced the show's distinctive charm. The result was animation that looked sharper and more detailed, while still feeling authentically South Park. This technical evolution coincided with significant changes in how audiences consumed media. The rise of streaming services, social media platforms, and mobile viewing meant that South Park needed to adapt not just its production methods, but also its approach to storytelling. Episodes began incorporating elements that acknowledged viewers' ability to pause, rewind, and analyze content in ways that weren't possible during the show's early broadcast-only era. You're Getting Old. The landmark episode that temporarily ended Stan and Kyle's friendship exemplified how the HD era allowed for more nuanced, emotional storytelling. The episode's exploration of growing apart from childhood friends, filtered through Stan's sudden inability to enjoy anything he once loved, used the improved animation capabilities to create genuinely moving moments alongside the series' trademark humor. The visual metaphor of everything literally turning to shit in Stan's perception became more impactful with the enhanced animation quality. The period also saw South Park becoming more sophisticated in its use of visual references and parodies. With HD animation, the show could more effectively recreate the look and feel of movies, television shows, and internet content it was satirizing. Episodes like The Hobbit, which parodied photo manipulation and social media culture, benefited enormously from the ability to create more detailed and accurate visual jokes. Randy Marsh's evolution into a central character rather than just Stan's father reflected the show's growing comfort with expanding its focus beyond the four main boys. Randy's various obsessions and midlife crises provided opportunities to explore adult anxieties and societal trends that the children's perspectives couldn't fully address. His character became a vehicle for examining everything from craft beer culture to marijuana legalization, topics that required a more mature viewpoint than the elementary school setting typically provided. The HD era also coincided with South Park's increased engagement with internet culture and digital phenomena. Episodes dealing with online gaming, social media, and viral content required more sophisticated visual techniques to effectively satirize their targets. The show's famous speed of production became even more valuable during this period, as internet trends could emerge and fade within days, making topical relevance more challenging but also more rewarding when achieved. The Coon trilogy, which introduced Cartman's superhero alter ego and established an ongoing mythology around costume vigilantes in South Park, demonstrated how the improved animation could support more ambitious action sequences and visual storytelling. The trilogy's blend of superhero movie parodies with genuine character development showed how technical improvements could serve narrative complexity. This period also saw South Park developing a more consistent visual language for different types of episodes. Fantasy sequences, flashbacks, and alternate realities each developed their own distinct visual styles while remaining recognizably part of the South Park universe. This consistency helped viewers navigate increasingly complex narratives while maintaining the show's accessibility. The show's approach to celebrity culture also evolved during the HD era. Rather than simply creating crude caricatures of public figures, the improved animation allowed for more subtle and effective satire. Episodes like Fish Sticks, which dealt with Kanye West's ego and public persona, used visual humor that wouldn't have been possible with the earlier animation techniques. Perhaps most importantly, the HD transition proved that South Park could adapt to changing technological and cultural landscapes without sacrificing its core identity. The show's ability to remain current and relevant while maintaining its distinctive voice became a template for other long-running series facing similar technological transitions. The years from 2013 to 2017, encompassing seasons 17 through 21, represent South Park's full embrace of the digital age as the series became increasingly focused on satirizing social media culture, online harassment, and the ways technology was reshaping human interaction. This era saw the show tackle some of its most complex and controversial subjects while developing new approaches to serialized storytelling that would define its later seasons. The period opened with Let Go, Let Gov, an episode that dealt with government surveillance and privacy concerns in the wake of the Edward Snowden revelations. The episode's exploration of how surveillance affect behavior and relationships demonstrated South Park's continued ability to process major news events through its unique comedic lens while finding universal themes within specific controversies. Social media became a central focus during this era, with episodes like Skank Hunt exploring online trolling and its real-world consequences. The show's examination of how internet anonymity enables harassment, while also providing outlets for frustration and creativity, showed a nuanced understanding of digital culture's complexities. Rather than simply condemning or celebrating online behavior, South Park found ways to explore the psychological and social factors that drive people to act differently online than they do in person. The emergence of PC culture as a major social force provided South Park with rich material for commentary. The introduction of PC Principal as a character embodied the show's complex relationship with progressive politics, simultaneously mocking the excesses of political correctness while acknowledging the legitimate concerns that drive movements for social justice. This balance between criticism and understanding became characteristic of the show's approach to contemporary political issues. The Sissy, which dealt with transgender rights through Cartman's manipulation of gender identity policies, exemplified South Park's ability to find humor in sensitive subjects while treating the underlying issues with respect. The episode's exploration of how policies designed to protect marginalized groups can be exploited by bad actors showed the show's sophisticated understanding of political and social complexity. This era also saw South Park developing a more sustained approach to character development. Rather than resetting characters to their default personalities at the beginning of each episode, the show began allowing experiences to accumulate and influence future behavior. This evolution was particularly notable in characters like Butters, whose traumatic experiences began to create lasting changes in his worldview and behavior. The show's engagement with celebrity culture also became more sophisticated during this period. Rather than simply mocking famous individuals, episodes began examining the systems and cultural forces that create and sustain celebrity. This approach allowed for more pointed social criticism while avoiding the potential legal and ethical issues that could arise from directly attacking public figures. YouTube culture and online content creation became recurring themes as the show explored how digital platforms were changing entertainment and communication. Episodes dealing with online influencers, viral videos, and the monetization of personal content showed South Park's awareness of how traditional media hierarchies were being disrupted by technology. The period's approach to serialization became more ambitious, with some storylines extending across entire seasons rather than just individual episodes or small arcs. This evolution allowed for more complex character development and thematic exploration while maintaining the show's episodic accessibility. The balance between standalone episodes and ongoing narratives became one of South Park's greatest strengths during this era. International politics also received increased attention during this period, with episodes dealing with global terrorism, immigration, and America's role in world affairs. The show's ability to find local, personal angles on international issues allowed it to make complex geopolitical subjects accessible and relevant to its audience, while avoiding the oversimplification that often characterizes media coverage of foreign affairs. The period from 2015 to 2018 stands as one of the most ambitious and controversial in South Park's history, as the show committed to heavily serialized storytelling that tackled the 2016 presidential election and its aftermath with unprecedented directness. This era, which fans often refer to as the serialization years, saw Parker and Stone attempting to create a cohesive narrative across entire seasons while responding to one of the most unpredictable political periods in American history. The experiment began with season 19's exploration of gentrification, political correctness, and social media culture, but it was the decision to structure season 20 around the 2016 presidential election that truly defined this era. The show's creators made the bold choice to build their entire season around the assumption that Hillary Clinton would win the presidency, creating storylines that were designed to explore a Clinton administration's relationship with internet culture, gender politics, and media manipulation. Mr. Garrison's transformation into a Donald Trump-like presidential candidate initially seemed like a typical South Park celebrity parody, but as the real Trump's campaign gained momentum, the fictional version became increasingly indistinguishable from reality. The show found itself in the unprecedented position of having their satirical character potentially become president in real life, creating a recursive loop between fiction and reality that neither the creators nor the audience had experienced before. The season's exploration of internet trolling through Gerald Broflovsky's secret online harassment activities provided a dark mirror to the political upheaval happening in the main storyline. Gerald's addiction to causing pain and chaos online reflected broader concerns about how anonymous digital platforms were enabling destructive behavior on a massive scale. The character's journey from respected member of the community to obsessive internet troll showed how ordinary people could be transformed by the power and anonymity that technology provided. When Trump actually won the election, South Park faced a crisis that no comedy show had ever encountered. Their entire season's narrative structure had been built around an assumption that proved completely wrong. The show's response to this challenge revealed both the limitations and the strengths of their serialization experiment. While some storylines had to be hastily restructured, the core themes of the season, the relationship between reality and fiction, the power of media manipulation, and the consequences of online behavior, remained relevant regardless of the election's outcome. The Member Berries subplot, featuring small talking fruits that represented nostalgia and the desire to return to simpler times, became one of the season's most prescient elements. These seemingly innocent characters embodied the reactionary impulses that were driving political change across the globe, showing how appeals to an idealized past could be used to justify present-day extremism. The Member Berries' gradual revelation as agents of chaos and division provided a perfect metaphor for how nostalgic thinking could be weaponized for political purposes. Season 21 continued this serialized approach, but with lessons learned from the previous season's challenges. The show developed more flexible storylines that could adapt to changing real-world circumstances while maintaining thematic coherence. The season's focus on the breakdown of traditional institutions and the rise of alternative power structures reflected the ongoing political upheaval while providing more manageable narrative frameworks. The introduction of characters like PC Principal and Strong Woman as ongoing figures rather than one-off jokes showed how serialization could deepen character development and create new comedic possibilities. Their relationship became a vehicle for exploring contemporary gender politics and workplace dynamics in ways that wouldn't have been possible with the show's earlier episodic format. Randy Marsh's evolution during this period from concerned parent to complete narcissist obsessed with his own relevance reflected broader concerns about how social and political upheaval was affecting middle-aged Americans. His various schemes and obsessions became increasingly desperate attempts to remain important in a rapidly changing world, making him a perfect representative of his demographics' anxieties. The season's handling of the NFL anthem protest through the character of Randy and his relationship with Stan showed South Park's sophisticated approach to racial politics. Rather than taking simple positions on complex issues, the show explored how white liberals could performatively support causes while missing the point entirely, creating uncomfortable but accurate commentary on contemporary social justice movements. This era also saw South Park grappling with its own role in shaping political discourse. The show's long history of mocking political correctness and social activism was suddenly being cited by real political movements, forcing Parker and Stone to reckon with how their satirical content was being interpreted and used by audiences they had never intended to address. The serialization experiment ultimately proved that South Park could successfully adapt to new storytelling formats while maintaining its essential character. But it also revealed the challenges of maintaining satirical distance when reality becomes increasingly surreal. The period's successes and failures provided valuable lessons that would inform the show's approach to political commentary in subsequent seasons. The COVID-19 pandemic presented South Park with perhaps its greatest creative challenge since the show's inception, forcing Parker and Stone to completely reimagine how they could produce content while addressing a global crisis that was unprecedented in its scope and impact. The pandemic specials, beginning with the Pandemic Special in September 2020, represented a bold new format for the series while demonstrating its continued relevance during times of genuine crisis. The decision to create hour-long specials rather than regular episodes reflected both practical production constraints and creative opportunities. With traditional production methods disrupted by lockdowns and safety protocols, the extended format allowed for more detailed exploration of how the pandemic was affecting the South Park community while providing enough time to address multiple aspects of the crisis without feeling rushed or superficial. More than 2 decades of television history, South Park has created an extensive ensemble of characters who have evolved from simple background figures into complex personalities with their own devoted fan followings. The transformation of these supporting characters from one-dimensional jokes into fully realized individuals represents one of the series' most impressive achievements and provides insight into how long-running shows can maintain freshness while building deeper connections with their audiences. Randy Marsh's evolution from Stan's embarrassing father into arguably the show's most prominent character illustrates this development perfectly. Initially appearing as a typical suburban dad whose main function was to provide adult perspective on the boys' adventures, Randy gradually revealed depths of narcissism, ambition, and midlife crisis that made him a perfect vehicle for exploring contemporary adult anxieties. His various obsessions, from becoming a celebrity chef to starting a marijuana farm, allowed the show to address topics that the elementary school setting couldn't accommodate while maintaining the satirical edge that defined South Park's approach to social commentary. The character's relationship with his son Stan also deepened significantly over the years, moving beyond simple parent-child dynamics to explore how generational differences and changing social values affect family relationships. Randy's desperate attempts to remain relevant and cool often put him at odds with Stan's growing cynicism about adult behavior, creating a dynamic that resonated with real families navigating similar generational tensions. Butters Stotch's journey from background character to central figure represents perhaps the most dramatic character development in the series. His evolution from simple innocence to a more complex personality, shaped by repeated trauma and manipulation, created opportunities for both comedy and genuine pathos. Episodes focusing on Butters often explore themes of child abuse, mental health, and resilience with a sophistication that wouldn't have been possible if he had remained a one-dimensional character. The development of Butters' relationship with his parents, particularly his father's struggles with sexuality and identity, provided South Park with opportunities to address LGBTQ plus issues through a lens that was both sympathetic and comedically rich. These storylines showed how the series could tackle serious social issues while maintaining its irreverent tone and avoiding the preachy messaging that often characterizes television's approach to social topics. Kenny McCormick's character arc, while complicated by his frequent deaths and resurrections, gradually revealed depths that weren't apparent in the series' early seasons. His family's poverty, initially played primarily for laughs, became a vehicle for exploring economic inequality and its effects on children. Episodes that focused on Kenny's home life and family relationships showed how the series could address serious social issues without losing its comedic edge. The mysterious nature of Kenny's deaths and rebirths also allowed the show to explore themes of mortality, memory, and the nature of consciousness in ways that were both funny and surprisingly philosophical. His alter ego as the superhero Mysterian provided opportunities to examine how children process trauma and develop coping mechanisms in the face of circumstances beyond their control. Tweek and Craig's relationship development demonstrated South Park's ability to evolve beyond simple stereotypes and embrace more complex representations of different communities. Their journey from background characters to a couple whose relationship was both comedically rich and genuinely touching showed how the series could address LGBTQ plus youth experiences with respect while maintaining its satirical edge. The supporting adult characters also underwent significant development during the series' run. Principal Victoria's replacement by PC Principal marked a major shift in how the show addressed institutional authority and progressive politics. PC Principal's evolution from simple caricature to a more nuanced character who genuinely cared about his students while struggling with the complexities of implementing social justice policies in practical settings showed South Park's growing sophistication in handling political themes. Chef's departure from the series following Isaac Hayes' real-life conflict with the show's portrayal of Scientology created opportunities to examine how institutions and communities handle loss and change. The character's absence left a void that was never fully filled, but it also allowed other characters to step into mentoring roles and develop new relationships with the main characters. The development of female characters like Wendy Testaberger from simple girlfriend figure to independent character with her own agency and storylines reflected broader changes in how television portrayed women and relationships. Her on and off relationship with Stan became a vehicle for exploring how young people navigate romantic relationships and personal growth. Even minor characters like Towley, originally introduced as a one-off joke about product placement and drug culture, developed ongoing storylines that explored addiction, recovery, and the search for purpose. These character developments showed how South Park could find depth and meaning in even its most absurd creations. South Park's influence on American culture extends far beyond television comedy, having fundamentally shaped how satirical content is created, distributed, and consumed in the digital age. Over its quarter-century run, the series has become more than entertainment. It has evolved into a cultural institution that influences political discourse, shapes comedic sensibilities, and provides a framework for processing complex social issues through humor. The show's impact can be measured not just in ratings and revenue, but in how it has changed the landscape of American comedy and social commentary. The series' most significant contribution to comedy has been its demonstration that animated content could address serious topics with both irreverence and intelligence. Before South Park, animated shows were largely relegated to children's programming or simple adult comedy that relied primarily on visual gags and slapstick humor. South Park proved that animation could be a sophisticated medium for social and political commentary, paving the way for shows like Rick and Morty, BoJack Horseman, and Big Mouth that combine animated storytelling with complex thematic content. The show's rapid production timeline revolutionized how comedy could respond to current events. Traditional television production schedules, which often required months between conception and broadcast, meant that satirical content was frequently outdated by the time it reached audiences. South Park's 6-day production cycle created a new model for topical comedy, proving that audiences hungered for immediate commentary on breaking news and cultural phenomena. This approach influenced not just other television shows, but also digital content creators who adopted similar rapid response strategies for online platforms. Perhaps more significantly, South Park established a new template for political satire that rejected traditional partisan boundaries. Rather than aligning with specific political ideologies, the show developed an approach that mocked extremism and hypocrisy regardless of its source. This equal opportunity offense strategy influenced a generation of comedians and commentators who adopted similar approaches to political humor, contributing to what some critics describe as the South Park neutrality that characterizes much contemporary satirical content. The series' impact on language and popular culture has been profound and lasting. Phrases like, "Oh my God," "They killed Kenny," and "Respect my authorita" became part of everyday conversation, while concepts like the underpants gnomes business plan provided shorthand for describing flawed logic in various contexts. The show's ability to create memorable catchphrases and concepts that transcended their original context demonstrated the power of comedy to shape how people understand and discuss complex ideas. South Park's influence on animation techniques and aesthetics also cannot be understated. The deliberately crude, cutout paper style inspired countless imitators and influenced the visual language of internet content creation. The show's aesthetic choices proved that technical sophistication wasn't necessary for effective storytelling, encouraging independent creators with limited resources to pursue their own animated projects. This democratization of animation contributed to the explosion of online animated content that characterizes contemporary digital media. The series' approach to controversy and censorship battles has had lasting effects on broadcast standards and content creation. South Park's willingness to push boundaries and challenge network restrictions helped expand what was considered acceptable on television, benefiting not just other comedy shows, but all forms of television content. The show's legal and cultural battles over content restrictions became precedent-setting cases that influenced how networks, advertisers, and regulatory bodies approach controversial material. In academic circles, South Park has become a legitimate subject of scholarly analysis, with numerous books, articles, and courses examining its cultural significance, satirical techniques, and social impact. Universities now offer courses that use South Park episodes as primary text for understanding everything from American political culture to the evolution of media technology. This academic recognition has helped establish animated comedy as a serious artistic medium worthy of critical analysis. The show's international influence has also been significant, inspiring local adaptations and influencing global conversations about American culture and values. South Park's portrayal of American society, politics, and culture has shaped international perceptions of the United States while also providing a model for satirical content in other countries. The series' global reach demonstrated that American animated comedy could successfully translate across cultural boundaries while maintaining its satirical edge. South Park's impact on the entertainment industry's business models has been equally transformative. The show's success proved that niche content with devoted fan bases could be more valuable than broad appeal programming that attracted larger, but less engaged audiences. This insight influenced how networks and streaming platforms approach content development, leading to increased investment in specialized programming designed to serve specific audience segments rather than trying to appeal to everyone. The series has also influenced how entertainment properties approach merchandising, licensing, and brand expansion. South Park's successful transition from television to movies, video games, mobile apps, and other media platforms provided a template for how comedy brands could extend their reach across multiple entertainment formats while maintaining their core identity and satirical edge. Perhaps most importantly, South Park has demonstrated the vital role that satirical comedy plays in democratic discourse. By providing a space where sacred cows can be questioned and uncomfortable truths can be examined through humor, the series has contributed to the maintenance of critical thinking and healthy skepticism in American society. This function has become increasingly important as traditional news media, has become more polarized and partisan, leaving satirical comedy as one of the few remaining spaces where difficult topics can be addressed from multiple perspectives. The show's legacy also includes its influence on subsequent generations of content creators who grew up watching South Park and absorb its lessons about the power of irreverent humor to address serious topics. Many contemporary comedians, writers, and creators cite South Park as a formative influence that taught them how to balance entertainment with social commentary, how to find humor in darkness, and how to maintain authenticity while addressing controversial subjects. As South Park approaches its third decade of production, with guaranteed content extending into the 2030s, the question of what comes next for the series becomes increasingly fascinating. The massive deal signed with Viacom-CBS in 2019 ensures that Parker and Stone will continue creating South Park content for the foreseeable future, but the specific forms that content will take remain fluid and open to evolution. The agreement includes not just traditional television episodes, but also streaming specials, movies, and other formats that could represent entirely new approaches to the South Park universe. The success of the pandemic specials demonstrated that South Park could adapt to new formats while maintaining its essential character and relevance. These hour-long specials provided more time for character development and thematic exploration while preserving the rapid response to current events that has always defined the series. This format's success suggests that future South Park content might include more varied approaches to storytelling, potentially including limited series, anthology formats, or other experimental structures that take advantage of streaming platforms' flexibility. The technological landscape that South Park will navigate in the coming years presents both challenges and opportunities. Virtual and augmented reality technologies could provide new platforms for South Park content, potentially allowing for immersive experiences that place audiences directly into the South Park universe. The rise of artificial intelligence in content creation raises questions about how human creativity and satirical sensibility will remain relevant in an increasingly automated entertainment landscape. Social media and short-form content platforms will likely continue to influence how South Park content is created, distributed, and consumed. The series' rapid production timeline and quotable dialogue make it naturally suited for social media engagement, but maintaining narrative coherence and thematic depth in an environment that favors brief, isolated clips will require continued innovation in storytelling techniques. The series' approach to international expansion could also evolve significantly in the coming years. While South Park has always been a global phenomenon, future content might include more internationally focused storylines or even localized versions that address specific regional issues while maintaining the core South Park sensibility. The streaming distribution model makes such specialized content more feasible than it would have been under traditional broadcasting constraints. Climate change, artificial intelligence, space exploration, and other emerging global issues will provide rich material for future South Park episodes and specials. The series' track record of finding local, personal angles on massive global phenomena suggests that these topics will be addressed through the lens of how they affect the residents of South Park, Colorado, rather than through abstract commentary on global trends. The aging of the original audience also presents interesting creative possibilities. Many viewers who discovered South Park as teenagers in the late 1990s are now adults with children of their own, creating opportunities for content that addresses generational change and the passing of cultural knowledge from parents to children. This demographic shift could influence both the themes and the characters that future South Park content explores. The question of succession and legacy will also become increasingly important as Parker and Stone continue their involvement with the series. While both creators remain actively engaged with South Park production, the long-term future of the franchise will eventually depend on their ability to develop new voices and perspectives that can maintain the series' satirical edge while adapting to changing cultural contexts. Educational and cultural institutions' continued engagement with South Park content suggests that the series' influence will extend beyond entertainment into academic and analytical contexts. Future South Park content might explicitly engage with this scholarly attention, creating episodes that comment on the series' own cultural significance and academic interpretation. The potential for technological innovation in animation production could also influence future South Park content. While the series has always maintained its distinctive cutout paper aesthetic, new technologies might enable faster production, more complex visual effects, or entirely new forms of interactive content that blur the boundaries between traditional animation and other media formats. International political developments and changing global power structures will continue to provide material for South Park's satirical treatment. As American society continues to evolve and face new challenges, South Park's role as cultural commentator and social critic will likely become even more important for audiences seeking perspective on rapidly changing circumstances. Ultimately, the future of South Park will depend on its ability to maintain the qualities that have made it successful while adapting to new technologies, changing audience expectations, and evolving cultural contexts. The series' track record of successful adaptation suggests that it will continue to find ways to remain relevant and influential regardless of how the media landscape continues to change.